every surfboard have one fin that is meant for it? Or should you be swapping out fins and trying it? And we're kind of in the middle of that, right? We're like, the shaper really should be making the board with the intention of a fin being on it. Yeah. But at the same time, everyone surfs differently. Everyone's a different size. So go and explore. And if you find that you want to put, a fin that's an inch less on the board, then sweet. But
well, it's like, I feel like fins for me, it's not always about maximizing the performance, but getting a different feel. And sometimes I like certain fins that give me a different feel that I haven't felt before, or something that the conditions too, like you need a fin for different types of waves. I'm not going to ride a quad on like a really peaky day so much, that's going to be more thruster. And then there's, so many variations that you could play with. I think with the fins, it's limitless, and you don't need to limit yourself to one particular fin. It's just everyone's so different.
Totally.
And like, are you also like looking at wave pools now and trying to figure out like testing there or doing things of that nature? Or do you daydream about that? Because I do. I daydream about that a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I know that over at Futures, they have some, and maybe even SCFs, they do a lot of like really scientific testing on, water flow and things. And most of what we've done is more just experimenting in the ocean. But yeah, I think for sure, like there's no doubt that a wave pool with such a consistent wave is going to be a testing ground at that point, and being able to. I daydreamed about that in my heat the other day. Like, man, if there was consistent waves, it'd be incredible right now. But I think that there's definitely opportunity there, and we'd be stoked to plug in for sure.
I'm like, all right, I got a product idea for you. Okay. Pitch it right here, right now. All right, listeners. You should do like a subscription of a fin, but it's like a lineage of fins, like through the history, and take like old templates and foils that you had from like this shaper, maybe that shaper influenced this shaper or this fin maker, and like kind of do it in almost like kind of like Rick Kane in North Shore, where you rode all the different boards leading up to the modern. I think that would be a really fun concept.
That is rad. Yeah, it is cool actually. Like even in the Yater catalog, we already almost have like we've got the spoon, through to the Yater Classic, and so we could probably pull something like that off.
Yeah, and then you need to make the abalone fin to go with his really nice, abalone type boards. And you can charge like a couple $1,000s for it.
Yeah, Chuck actually had been a part of one of those projects in the past. He made some fins for one of those abalone boards. Yeah, they're insane. I mean, beautiful
they're so
work.
Stunning.
Yeah.
It's holographic before it was holographic,
Yeah, seriously.
All right, I want to bring it back now to the WSL and the changes in that they've made in the judging criteria. How can you explain to me a little bit like what the difference is from this year to years in the past? Do you know? Yeah,
so actually I think that a couple years ago they had reset the criteria for the longboarding, and Devin has explained that at least that the criteria actually hasn't changed, but it's more the interpretation of the criteria and how it's going to be judged, or just let's start surfing more towards what the criteria had laid out. So I think that a lot of it for the WSL was just like, we just need to get those surfers involved. So after that first event, I mean, having that heat with Harrison and Justin Quintal was insane. That was beautiful surfing. Perfect too.
It was crazy.
Yeah, they just did. That was, I think, kind of one of those moments that needed to happen. But it's such a tough thing because I love so many of those guys surfing who have been doing it for a long time. I mean, Harley Ingley is one of the most amazing surfers out there.
Phenomenal.
Crazy talented. Taylor Jensen, like a lot of those guys. And so I think it is a little bit tough to like find that balance, but I don't know. I just think in the end, longboarding as far as surfing is concerned is probably the most approachable. Like shortboarders are doing the craziest things on waves. And like my in-laws are a great example of like, they are from Pacific Northwest. They know what surfing is, but they don't know the judging criteria and the minutia of that. And like, I think watching a longboarder it's more attainable. You're like, wow, that person's cross-stepping, nose riding, it's beautiful. And so I came to the place where I felt like hanging 10 on a proper log, the levitation and that feeling is insane. It has a comparison to getting barreled or doing that really hard turn on a shortboard. And so that's what I started pursuing. And I think that it's cool that, the competitive thing might go in that direction.
What do the progressive longboarders do then? I imagine there must be a lot of guys and girls women who approach surfing for so long in that way, and then to all of a sudden have it just change or the interpretation totally change. Like some of these people have created careers on that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that in the end, a lot of those guys are fully capable of surfing to that criteria or that concept and like winning still. I think that like I said, like Taylor and Harley as examples of those guys on single fins is incredible. So I guess it's really more just up to, I think that's hard. I think it's probably hard for them. I know that there's been, a lot of conversations and some frustration from that end, but I guess a lot of it, to me, I kind of just turn it back to like, well, what do the people want? Yeah. And, I think the WSL's had a really hard time selling that type of longboarding. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing this.
It's not... Yeah, because it feels more of the same. And, like you might as well just watch a shortboard comp a lot of times.
Right.
Granted, like, I don't want to take away from a lot of those guys. What they do on a 9-foot longboard is unbelievable, totally. And I used to be a fan of Jeff Kramer's surfing, and that guy was busting airs, like... Yes. And Ted Robinson, who is a former pro and, was a U.S. champion longboarder and a friend of Gary Calisby, I believe. And, all of those, so like it's kind of interesting to watch that, but it's totally, it doesn't fit with my idea of longboarding and what longboarding should be, I guess. I hate you saying should, I don't want to... But for what they need to do to market it, and you see the success of duct tape, totally. And the appeal that has with everyone is totally part of it. The other thing is, I wonder, is the fact that the duct tape and that type of style of surfing tends to attract surfers with a lot of personality and flair, not just in the water but on land.
Sure.
Whereas the more performance-oriented surfers tend to come off as more jockey and don't seem to have that type of colorful profile, or hasn't been at least explored in some ways. It seems more clean-cut, whereas duct tape has like an edge, has a youthful vibe to it for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's it. I mean, I think you're hitting on the head. I mean, it doesn't take away from the talent and the craziness of that kind of surfing, for sure. I mean, it's incredible. But I think that for me, and it's easier for me to talk about it from my own experience than it is to like try to define those guys, because I love them and I think their surfing's incredible. For me, it was more just that I surfed lowers on a shortboard. You weren't allowed to surf on a longboard, and so I always really enjoyed shortboarding.
Yeah.
And then it was a good transition to riding a 2+1 longboard, because there are similar, approaches to the wave from the tail. But when I finally rode a log in a point break, like it clicked to me. You're flying almost. Yeah, and I think and then that really truly the definition of like, well, if I want to turn and approach a wave from a top to bottom perspective, I really should just ride a shortboard. Yeah. And then this longboarding feeling of riding a log where you're nose riding and you're levitating this, and throwing style into it, it just felt more natural, and then I just kind of slowly moved towards that. And so, I guess in the end, I think I also then revert to, right, the duct tape. Like, it's clear that has so much energy. People are really stoked on it. Yeah. There's a lot of people following it and interested in it. And now the lineup is actually dictating that. Like, there are very few people, at least where I live, riding 2+1s. Everyone's riding single fin.
So your side bite business is taking a hit. You're like, well, we could make these the back of quads, I guess.
Yeah. Fortunately, we've actually still been understocked on side bites, so we're not in a heavy inventory.
Well, you're good at forecasting, right?
Sure. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
It all comes back to the business.
It does all come back to the business. Yeah, we might have to tame our side bite sales, but I think we're willing for that. I mean, yes, if we're going to like even give it a, Joel's side of surfing or whatever, that is for sure, at least from True Ames' perspective, the preference. And, we're stoked to see it go in that direction. It's also just really cool to see the youth and the kids coming up. Like, Andy Nieblis is so crazy.
Oh my God, what he does! Holy shnikes! Yes. It's and Corey Colapinto, totally. It's stunning, and Ryan Birch, even it's just all the way on down. It's amazing. What it's. I guess it's probably been talked about before, and I'm probably lifting this, but sure. Longboarding got to a certain point in around 68, 69, and then it was a sudden stop, and it didn't get to fully explore the possibilities of what could be done on a longboard, and it stunted it. And so now it's like we almost had to go back to go forward, and now Joel had to go back to revive it, and now and take it into a different direction.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's super cool to see it evolving even from there. It's like, I agree. Joel went back, CJ, Devin, Dane Peters. I mean, all of the cast of the Sprout Seedling Present movie, right? Those guys definitely were doing it. And that's, I think, a part of it for me, too, why I kind of shy away a little bit from the conversation is just because I was the high performance guy. Like, I wanted to win a world title doing that, and I wasn't like single fin dude. And so I'm always trying to do the most to honor and respect that those guys have been doing it for that long. Like, Alex Nost never rode a 2+1. There's a lot of guys who did. There's a lot of guys who were
who were following that for a certain time.
Yeah, and it was just kind of what was there. I mean, even Joel Wright was riding a 2+1. Granted, he was riding it with much more style and grace, but everybody that was the criteria, and we were fitting into it.
2+1s make sense. It does help. I mean, it's not like it hinders the classical style though either too much.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, I don't know, maybe that's even where it ends up in the future of just a little bit more steez and control thrown into a 2+1 longboard.
Or you just build in, I don't know if you remember the old Maury, maybe it was the Mach 9 where it had the fins that you just pushed forward and it popped out the bottom.
Totally.
You just need that now.
Yeah, mid-heat transition.
Mid-heat transition.
Yeah. That's
ooh, it's a little steep. You move your foot back, and there's a little knob that puts it
in. I like that. That's tech.
There we go. Well, my idea is, we can talk afterwards,
Sounds good.
How's it been coming to New York for this contest then? It must be, amazing to have scored, the day of all days for the comp. How was it during the comp? What was the vibe like there? Because I was not there.
Right. Yeah, I think that people were really excited. I mean, because we started running in pretty decent surf. It was a little wonky, but it was still fun. There were waves, and I would assume most of the competitors understood that we were on the East Coast, and swell comes and goes pretty quickly. So to have that Saturday where it was offshore, beautiful, picturesque waves. Yeah, I mean, you don't get that very often, even when you're in California for a contest, So it was really special, and it was super fun to get to, go out and be like, wow, we've got waves to compete on. It was cool.
Yeah, it was, oh my God, so sick. And perfect for a longboard, actually. Like really good